Hello, everyone. This is episode 12.1, a very, very significant episode. So, last time I talked about a couple of trips that I took in my seventh grade, and those were a lot of fun. And towards the end of seventh grade, the big event was a couple of big events. One was board exams or SSC board exams. So did those exams and I did very, very well. I was very pleased with my percentage, very pleased how it went. I was not one of I was not the top scorer, but I was definitely one of the top scorers in those exams, and I was extremely thrilled about it. The other thing that happened was towards the end of seventh grade, I had spent all my life, all my elementary school years in the neighborhood, when I switched schools, and then also all of my middle school years. So all of that I had spent in a co-ed schooling environment. So, but the school I was studying at was actually St. Anne's High School, but it was also St. Anne's Girls High School. High school in India was considered 8th, ninth, and 10th grade actually. 11th and 12th were considered like college or junior college. So, and it was completely in a different environment. So I was going to enter high school, and in my high school, the co-ed was only till middle school. It was from elementary school all the way till middle school, and then from high school onwards, which was only three years actually, 8th grade, ninth grade, 10th grade. It switched to an all girls environment. So we had to bid goodbye to all our friends. The friends were boys. So we organized every section. There were 4 sections in 7th grade: A, B, C, and D. A was the only section that was exclusively girls, so they didn't go through this experience, but B, C, and D sections, each section on their own, we organized a farewell party for them. So that was something that we remember. We went and bought them gifts. It was actually from that little green store outside, and it was actually a pen with Indira Gandhi head on top. It was, I don't know why we thought that was a cool farewell gift. But I'll come to why it had the Indira Gandhi head on top. So, anyways, we gave that as a gift, and we bought from our canteen. We pooled money together, and we purchased samosas and some eclairs, and I got some mixture from home, and we got some paper plates, and we gave them all a treat, and then we said goodbyes to them, and it was pretty moving because we didn't realize that we missed them all so much. It was weird that half of the or a third of 3/4 of the class would move forward, and 1/4 of the class would be gone. And especially after that Bombay excursion, we spent quite a bit of time with them, and some of them were very close to us, and we felt really bad about them leaving the school, and they all went off to other boys schools or co-ed schools, and we were left behind as an all girls school, all girls grades actually, not all girls school. It was still a co-ed until 7th. So coming to why we gave those pens with the Indira Gandhi head is that before this event happened, the farewell party for the boys, I remember this day so vividly. And we were all in class, and then somebody walked in, one of the teachers walked in, and they all like saying that curfew was declared. Curfew is when there's like a statewide like closure, citywide closure, and then we all had to go home because they were worried about some riots breaking out. This used to happen frequently in Hyderabad. Usually they were Hindu Muslim riots, rioting between Hindus and Muslims, but this was something different. Basically, we heard that Indira Gandhi, our Prime Minister, she had been shot dead by her bodyguards actually. And it was a very gruesome death. It was not just one or two shots. Basically, they both had machine guns and they something the likes of AK-47s or maybe AK-47s, and basically both of them had machine guns, and they just pumped bullets into her. They made sure that like she would die, both of them. Their assassins' names were Satwan Singh and BN Singh, and the worst thing was they were her security guards. I mean, talk about tragedy or travesty of the situation. So basically, but the funny part was all the boys, and I remember this very, very, very clearly. All the boys started clapping and cheering. Why? Because they would have a holiday. The school was shut down and going home. And the girls were kind of shocked when they heard the news, but when all the boys were clapping and cheering, and the boys were in a minority in our class, they comprised only about 1/4 or maximum 1/3 of the class. The girls comprised 2/3 of the class, and they started making din and they started whistling, and all the girls kind of, even though they were sad on the inside, they felt compelled to join them, and that was not coming naturally, including me actually. But inside my heart I was feeling terrible about the woman prime minister of our country, like suddenly dying. It's such a gruesome death. And she was a tough lady. She was called Iron Lady of India, like how Margaret Thatcher was the Iron Lady of the UK. And at that point I distinctly remember this. All the teachers, so my school, like most schools, were primarily 99% were female teachers. There were a couple of male teachers. One was a games teacher and one was a PT instructor who came in and out, and one was a dance teacher actually. But other than those three, everybody else was female. The teachers were all like in the corridors and hallways crying and hugging each other. And when they heard the din, they came to see what the din was about, and they saw all these boys and girls celebrating. Interestingly, the girls in the all-girls class were also crying. So this was something very interesting, observation, that the girls in the all-girls class were crying, and the girls in the all-boys and girls co-ed class wanted to cry, but they were kind of felt compelled to do what the boys did. So I observed that, and I somehow felt that India and the rest of the world was basically a misogynistic society, misogynistic world. Actually, this is one discrimination that is across the world, across borders, in any country that you see. So the girls kind of suppressed their own feelings, and they kind of wanted to follow the lead of the boys, as if the boys knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't. They were idiots, really. They were not so little that they they did not know the gravity of the situation. The girls certainly understood the gravity of the situation. So anyways, the one of the teachers was came to check on us, and they were horrified at all of us celebrating. So I still remember they were crying tears, and they said, our most beloved prime minister, she is being killed in this gruesome manner and she's dead, and you guys are like celebrating, like shame on you, just shame on you, and everybody felt silent. And and all the teachers were really crying a lot. um, I didn't know the gravity of what that meant for women, like to kind of have like a I mean, Indira Gandhi has taken plenty of wrong decisions um, uh, in her life, but she still was an epitome of female empowerment, all said and done, regardless of who she was as a leader, whether as a leader she was a good leader or a bad leader, but she was an empowered female leader, which was very rare. So anyway, that happened. So I did make a note of that somehow it seemed weird that the majority of girls still compelled to follow the minority boys, even though they kind of knew that they were doing the wrong thing. So around the same time, so after this was towards the last day of school, and then we gave the farewell party, and then it was time for us to the summer holidays started, and they started off very well because I got a great grade, etc. I was still kind of personality wise a shy, quiet person. The hairstyle change didn't really help. So but very observational by then. So in those summer holidays, my mom's research finally picked up at a very fast pace, actually, because number one, she had the topic of her thesis identified. She knew what she wanted to focus on. It was basically, I think, I don't quote it exactly, but I think it's the effect of society and mass media on on human values, I think, of children. So basically, for that, what she did is, based on a lot of research, she created this questionnaire. It had questions like which would test a person's. First, it would ask a person's socio-economic background. So she needed to go to a variety of different schools: government schools, private schools, co-ed schools, schools with missionary schools, and all kinds of schools. There would also be questions on what kind of newspapers they read, what's their parents' educational level, how much do they have a TV at home, do they see the news and things like that, do they watch movies, and do they read magazines, and if so, what kind of magazines do they read? Do they read film magazines? Do they read competition success reviews? So that part was smaller, but it got an idea of what a person's background, socio-economic background, because I think the thing was the effects of socio-economic backgrounds and mass media on a child's human values development. I think I don't quote it exactly, but it was more or less on those lines. So there was a questionnaire that gathered a person's background, and also by going to certain schools, you already knew that people for example, kids who came to government schools were obviously from impoverished backgrounds. So things like that. And then the rest of the questionnaire was basically, they would test your human values, and it was first, to even get to the questionnaire, there were many trial runs, and so that it's not a fluke, they would ask the same question in different ways. So it would have questions like, you're getting late, all situational questions. You're getting late for school, and there's a blind lady or old lady trying to cross the road, and she's having a really tough time, and you notice that. But this is your last bus, or really getting late for school, would you take the bus or would you help the lady cross? You see some money dropped somewhere, would you pick it up and report it to the police, or would you take it because it's only like 50 paise and does it's not worth it to report it to the police? Things, questions on those lines. About, I think, close to about 100 questions. It was a large questionnaire because it was and that questionnaire itself, it took her a lot of research to exactly narrow down what kind of, because even the human values, it was like integrity, honesty, kindness, empathy, respect, things like that. And they had a bunch of questions to test all that. um, so basically she had all these questionnaires. So she wanted to do her research on all the schools in Andhra Pradesh, not by all the a sampling of various schools in Andhra Pradesh. So within the city, I was completely unaware. The whole family was completely unaware of the struggle that she had to go through. So was I actually, because she would leave in the morning and she would make time here and there between. She was still working as a full-time lecturer. So she would go to these schools, give those questionnaires, and come back with the answers. And sometimes the kids and sometimes she herself would help her, like, grade the answers. It was a multiple choice, so there was nothing to read or grade. We'd have a grid, and my dad would grade it, or I would grade it, or she herself would grade it. But what was behind the scenes or how she was struggling, everybody was kind of blind to that. Like, she left in the morning, she came home in the evening. It was as if she just left for work and came home, so we didn't really get an idea of, how difficult that whole research was for her and how hard she was working. But I got an idea to see that soon. Because after she finished going to various schools in the city, she wanted to get some more sampling from various villages and towns in in Andhra Pradesh. So my dad, remember I did say that, remember the tour that I took from him in episode 3 series. So my dad was a marketing head of his company for the south region, especially for Andhra Pradesh. So he had a bunch of contacts in every single city and even smaller towns in Andhra. So what he said is, okay, you just have to get there. I said, I'll set up a vehicle for you, and I can have my local contacts book hotels for you. There was no Google or Expedia or TripAdvisor or whatever, nothing. You had to literally make trunk calls, they were called. Those were the long distance phone calls to your contacts, and they would book a hotel. There was nothing to even check if a hotel was even available. There was no way even to see what kind of hotel you're going to be staying at until you landed there. Literally, you just relied on local contacts. So the local contacts were going to, arrange a car and arrange a hotel. And my dad kept repeating, and I remember this distinctly because he said, "Oh, you'll have like a really comfortable time. You'll be really comfortable because everything is taken care of for you. Everything is taken care of you." And he was genuinely very proud that he was in a position to get that set up for her. But I do remember that. I was also thinking that because I saw how much my dad, worked hard. I did tell that he worked very hard. When I went on the tour, I saw how hard he worked and how much fun he had, how he brought the team together. This was in, episode 3-ish, I think, when I took that tour with him. So, so my dad said the same thing, and I was thinking, okay, if my dad arranged it, my mom would truly have a very comfortable, easy time. She would do her thing and come back. So she asked me if I'd like to join her, and she wanted to take me with her because I was right around the age of hitting puberty. And she didn't want to kind of leave me all alone to fend for myself if that event happened while she was gone. so she did take me with her, and I also was very excited because I knew if my dad arranged it, I knew all the hotel and hotel and car would be arranged, and we would have like a really fun time. Of course, my dad was working so hard, and I never visualized my mom's job as a hard job. And the reason I didn't visualize it like that, because she would leave at 10 and be back by 4. So for me, working hard was working long hours, and my dad worked really long hours. He had a lot of fun with his team later, but there was not a single day that I remember that he came home before 9 p.m. And my mom was always more or less back home by 4 p.m., and she left home close to 10 a.m. So for me, my mom had a job, like, and of course, she used to study at home for the lessons plans and all that. But in my mind, she didn't work long hours. So in my mind, her job was not that hard as my dad's job. Little did I know how wrong that was. Okay, only after going through this tour with her, I realized that hard work is not working long hours. In fact, if you are good at your job and if you're having fun, you actually enjoy working those long hours. You don't even know. It's like watching a movie, or it's like doing something fun that you really like and you really are good at. For example, whenever I had an English exam or a social studies exam, I really liked taking exams. I loved studying. I would not have a problem sitting at the desk for 4 or 5 hours. It wasn't a chore to me. I only realized after this trip that a hard job is not one where you work long hours. It is one where you have to cross many, 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 many hurdles. And my mother, she's the hardest working woman that I have observed, because what she was trying to achieve, and the hurdles that she had to cross to achieve that, is an amazement that she actually could eventually get her PhD. Like, it is shocking and amazing and admirable, because during this trip is where I witnessed all the hurdles that she had to face, or probably any woman with a high goal or high ambition would have to face in their career, that a man doesn't face. So number one, just to go to the trip, she had to hear a lot of bunch of my younger sister was only like what 4 years old, just a baby, like just joined school. So everybody was like, is your husband going to be okay? Like, you're leaving him. When my dad went on a trip, nobody asked my mother if she was going to be okay that my dad was leaving her. And but everybody was asking if, will he be able to manage fine? This is the typical thing that most people would ask. Oh, how will they manage food? So luckily, my dad knew how to cook. Bless his soul. We are very, very blessed that he was an all-rounder. My brother knew how to cook. So and he also was very nurturing and motherly. So was my mother, actually. They both were complete individuals. They didn't complete each other. They were complete by themselves, and they were together because they loved each other. There was no gap that they were filling, and there was no woman's role, man's role in our household. But she had to face that a lot. Okay, so overcome that, and she explains, and then of course, we leave. We traveled by bus to Vijayawada first. We were going to many cities. So in our plan was a big, very ambitious trip of Vijayawada, Guntur, Nellore, Visakhapatnam, and yeah, yeah, these were the four for sure that I remember. So first we went to Vijayawada, and we had to go to various schools, and each day she would attempt to cover two schools. Very, very stressful work. So Vijayawada we went in the bus, and when we went in the bus, um, it was a night journey, and all through the journey, and I actually remember I was wearing a very dark brown maxi that my mom really liked it on me, so I wore that, and all somewhere in the middle of the journey, right around the time before we were reaching our destination, like around, like, at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., um, I was feeling extremely uneasy in my in my body, in my tummy. Like, it was very uneasy. It was uncomfortable. It was not a stomach ache, but it was something weird. Like very uncomfortable. So I ignored it, and I just kept quiet about it because I always kept quiet about everything that happened to me. It was terrible behavior, but I still do sometimes. so, anyways, we went to the Vijayawada, and there was a taxi arranged by a car arranged by my dad, and we would finish the rest of the journey through the car, because we would do a road trip which my dad organized from Vijayawada all the way to Vizag, and stop at various towns along the way, and then from Vizag we would fly back. So that was the plan. So we went by this thing, and then we checked in. We only had about a couple of hours time there, and so we checked in, and so we just got barely 2 hours of sleep. And after 2 hours, my mom put an alarm, and she woke herself up. She woke me up, and she said, get ready, have a shower, get ready, and then we'll go to the first school. So I was very excited that I was her assistant, and carrying she had a bunch of questionnaires, so many of them, and she didn't want the driver to bring them in and all that. Like, she wanted to really do this all by herself. So yes, certainly the driver took us to the school, but she did it everything by herself, including the physical labor of carrying all these questionnaires. So we got the set of questionnaires for that day. We were going to visit two schools. One was a missionary school in the morning, and the other one was a garment school in the afternoon. So we left with those all those bundles of questionnaires that these kids had to answer. At any given time, she would sample about 100 kids, 50 to 100 kids in each school. So we left in the car, and we went to a missionary school. So the missionary school, the way it was the main school building was there, and it was a beautiful garden-like setting. And in the garden, the nuns' convent where they stayed. Because it was a missionary school, it was run by nuns. The nuns' convent was there. So we parked under a tree in that garden kind of thing, where there was a parking lot also, and the convent was right there, and the school was like, we had to walk about 100 meters. Okay, so she got down with all the questionnaires, and we both started walking towards the school. We had an appointment with the principal there, and as we started walking, it was early in the morning. I remember it was about 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and there was nobody there, except one cleaning lady, who was sweeping sweeper lady who was sweeping the that whole parking lot and the road, because it was like a garden kind of setting with a lot of trees, and there was a road in the between. So she was sweeping the leaves. It was very beautiful setting actually. She was sweeping the leaves, and then we just both passed her. So you know how sweepers, like, they're bent down, their line of vision is lower. Then as we passed her, she called out to my mom. And I had worn one of my favorite dresses. It was a white skirt with little polka dots. It was not polka dots even. It's tiny dots. It was red dots on it with a white frill, and it had a red and green dots, and it had a light green pistachio blouse. I loved pastel colors. This was something my dad got it, and it was the second time I was wearing it, I think. So we passed her, and then the lady who was sweeping, she said, "Amma," like that, your daughter's skirt. Then then look at the bag or something. Then I looked back, and my mother looked back at the same time, and I was horrified, horrified. There was like a patch of this big patch of blood on my skirt. I was like terrified, and I felt so bad, and I could put two and two together that that was what my discomfort was the previous night. So then my mother basically just, and I thought my mother will like just beat me up because I mean, this was, she worked so hard for this trip, and she planned so much for it, and now suddenly she has to deal with this emergency. uh, you know Story of story of a mother. She can never stop being a mother. uh, so I thought she'll get beat me up or she'll get annoyed. I felt so guilty for just spoiling her day, and I, because we didn't know what to do. So I thought she'll just make me sit in the car and go, because she had to meet the principal. She had an appointment and she had a whole day, and she couldn't miss even a single day. So instead, she just kind of told, she was not in the least bit annoyed. She just looked at the sweeper lady and said, "Oh, it's her first time." And she smiled. And she didn't know where to go. She took me to that convent where the nuns stayed. She knocked on the door, and she said, "Why don't you just sit here? I'll talk to them." So she talked to them, and she basically explained to them that her child had had her first period and she needed some pads or whatever to take care. And then I remember this thought so vividly. I was kind of prepared for this, because by that time my mother had educated me to expect this, that eventually, like, I would hit puberty and I would get my first period. But what I didn't know, that nuns also had it. So I thought only like the regular people had it. I thought nuns didn't get periods. so so I thought, why will the nuns have anything to take care of this? Because they are nuns. So they don't get married, they don't get children. So obviously God doesn't give them periods, because they don't need them. Because they're not going to have babies. They don't need eggs, so God won't give it to them. So I was surprised when the nuns came up with something, and actually one of the nuns was really nice. So she kind of taught me how to use it, and then my mother came into the thing, and she washed my skirt, and then she dried it under a fan, and the nuns had like a fan, and they came and they all helped dry my skirt. And I was sitting there with a little towel around me in the bottom half, like a skirt. And then after it dried, I wore the skirt back, and we went into the school. So I'm out of time, so I'll conclude 12.1, but to be continued in 12.2. So what did I learn from it? a lot, a lot. Um, you know, a dad can be a dad at home, and a man can be a dad at home, and a son too is when he's at his parents' home. A husband when he's alone with his wife, having a quiet cup of coffee or enjoying her companionship. And they can be the best employee. They can give their best version of themselves at work. A woman, um, they can never, if they, even though they're the employee, they're expected to be the best employee, they want to be the best employee, but they can never stop being a mother. They can never stop being a wife. They can never stop being, you know, a daughter or a sister, while also trying to be the best employee. And by the way, they're expected to be the best at everything. I just saw how my mother was also a mother and trying to pursue her dream and her ambition, and also keeping up with college at the same time. And also using her skills and social skills to take care of the situation. I'm 100% sure my dad or other men cannot juggle it like this. She did it so seamlessly. So I was very proud of her, not yet, not, but I was very grateful at that time that she took care of it and made it so easy for me. What could have been a very, very unpleasant experience. So that's all I have, but in 12.2, I'll continue with the rest of our road trip, which is very interesting.